his forgiveness. Okay, I've left just a little time because if that boulder of the possibility that of him turning his back on you, if that boulder is out of the way for you, then maybe it will begin to be out of the way for those that you see in your community. Because we have this kind of assumption. It's like, oh, there's that street person. Oh, there's the guy with AIDS, and he got it the bad way. Oh, there's the, and as long as we think that other people's misbehavior is going to have a response of God like this, we will join God in doing that somehow. But as long as we have this idea that God is always towards them, then we can even join AIDS Calgary. Say, I am not embarrassed to hear your story, and I probably won't even flinch. So here's how I put it into practice, because where the rubber meets the road is this for me. If I meet somebody who is really, 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 really bound up, I mean, they're just in such a bad place, I need to know where God is at with them. And here's what I found out by practicing, and I tell you, I held my breath the first 50 times, and I don't anymore, because I found out God's always towards them. So I want to just give you a little training on how to set up a meeting, a face-to-face meeting between God and the most broken person you'll ever meet in your life in about a minute. It'll take longer to explain it than it takes to do it. But if you're not sure about this, you won't have the guts to try. But if you're absolutely sure that he loves them more than you, that he is always towards them, and that when you call on him, he answers, Jeremiah 33:3, New Covenant promise, then you can just ask God to speak to them, and he will. Here's how I practice. We started going into this ladies' recovery house called Life Recovery a number of years ago, because step 11 says that we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with the God of our understanding, in order to improve our understanding of who this is, right? So we would go into the recovery house with these ladies. They were just off the streets. Many of them had been prostitutes 2 weeks before. Some were street people. Occasionally there's just women coming out of broken homes. And so it's these ladies in the recovery house, many who'd never darkened the door of a church before or heard any form of the gospel that would screw them up. Although some of them did have very, very odd images of God. And so we would go in about once a month. I think it's still about once a month. And various people from our church, and we spend an hour with them. And we say, what we want to teach you here is how to have a permanent meeting place with God in your heart, where you can talk to him and hear him anytime you need to. Isn't that what Hebrews promises? That he's opened the throne of grace permanently to everyone for help in time of need. Even them, if God loves them, is towards them, is with them, right? So I'm going to just tell you the series of questions that we ask them that leads them into that meeting place. So kind of overhear it as training for you, how you can do it, but experience it too as we go. It shouldn't take long. Question number 1. And we don't make it all intense prayer, by the way. It's just like a casual conversation that's non-threatening, and in about 3 questions, they are very deep into a mystical arrangement with the Lord. It's fun. They don't know it, but here's how it goes. So number 1, if you could meet God anywhere at all for a one-on-one, face-to-face with him, anywhere at all, so that it would feel perfectly safe, and you would be totally comfortable, where would you meet him? Meanwhile, I'm praying like crazy. Okay, God, show them. Show them that place in their hearts that you have reserved for this meeting. Well, how it feels to them is, hey, I know, and they put their hands up. It's like, I'd meet him on a mountain. Another goes, I'd meet him at a shack. I'd meet him by the lake. I'd meet him by an ocean. I'd meet him by my bedroom. I mean, they're almost getting in a fight to go first to tell you where they would meet God. Totally unchurched people. And they're into it. Maybe because they're broken enough. Where would you meet him? Where would you meet him, Michael? You can meet God anywhere, one-on-one, face-to-face. Mount Yamniska, top, bottom, trail, where? Middle. Okay. Anyone else? Where would you meet him? On a boat in the Okanagan. Okay. Anyone else? On the dance floor. Sweet. Anyone else? See, come on. What's that? Dominican Republic. Okay, so we're describing, some of you are describing literal earthly places, but as you do it, even just by saying it, you're evoking the memory of it in your heart. You have a place in your heart that feels very good, associated with what you just told me. What do you associate with the dance floor, right? It's joy, celebration, peace. What do you associate with that mountain? It's like getting out, space, expansiveness. Okay, question number 2. If God were to come to you there for this meeting, how would he come to you? Would he come as a father? Would he come as a best friend? Would he come as Jesus of Nazareth? Would he come as the good shepherd? Some of the ladies at the recovery house, they give us the most interesting answers. One is like, he comes like the wind. Does that count? I'm like, yeah, there's a verse about that, isn't there? Others, it's like, he comes like a lion. Is that okay? Yeah, it's okay. Okay, could he come as a lamb? He can use any image that he wants that represents something to him, right? And so I'm saying, God, how do you want to come? Tailor make your arrival. Some of them say, he comes to me as a mom, and I'm like, God's not a woman. I say that in my head, right? But what I say out loud is, why does he come as a woman? And they say, because I've never once met a man I could trust, including my dad. Oh, okay. Would that be okay then if he comes as a woman? I guess if he can come as a lion or a lamb, a woman might be okay, right? But then they bring up like the Labrador Retriever. I'm like, okay, come on. God's not a dog. And they're like, yeah, a dog. He comes as a Labrador. So what's a Labrador Retriever like? Okay, you tell me. What's a Labrador Retriever like? Faithful? Gentle? Friendly? Non-judgmental? Man's best friend? Oh my goodness. And they get through 10 of these things, and I'm like, that's better theology than I get at my church. They're listing the fruit of the Spirit. Oh, okay. All right. And so then, this is an optional question, but I think it's a good one. You don't have to ask it, but you can say, how old would you be in that moment? With the girls, we always ask that, and they always tell me, or whoever goes, I'm a little girl, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it will always be for one of 2 reasons. It's either the last moment before they lost their innocence, or the first moment after their deepest wound. And now I'm like, so you've got the place, you've got God there, you've got them there. Where is this happening? Well, it's in their heart. That's where it's happening. And then we ask them, how close is he? Usually, where is God? And usually they'll say he's right in front of me or he's right beside me. If he's any distance at all, I just make them this promise. If you draw near to him, he'll draw near to you. Guaranteed. Right? Book of James? Okay, so But I love it when I said, just get close enough to him that he could touch you. And already they're like leaning on his shoulder. They're laying his head on his lap. They're enfolded in his arms. I'm like, and now they're weeping. And we're like, what, 4 questions in? They're having a direct encounter with Jesus of Nazareth. The living God is touching them. I love it if they're beside him. I'll say, can you lean on him? And they always will do that. They will physically go. And then they smile. I'm like, what's happening? What's that feel like to lean on him? Peace. I've had some say, I have never felt peace in my whole life till just now. And it cost me 2 minutes. 2 minutes. But it meant I had to believe this. It meant there could be nothing in my heart that would think this. And then, so he's bringing me there, right? And what would be the next question? Oh, okay. What's the very first thing that he would say to you? And now I'm almost making it hypothetical, but it's not. But I make it sound hypothetical because it opens them up to any possibility. It's like nurturing their faith. If I say, what's he saying? They might say, I'm not hearing anything. If I say, what would he say? They totally nail it every time. I love you. You're my daughter. I've waited for this moment all my life. God's saying that. God has been waiting for this moment all his life. That's a long time. And then they just weep. And can you just look him in the face? What expression do you see there? Because you see, they haven't repented yet. So according to my old gospel, his primary disposition towards them should be enmity. That never happens. He's so kind. When I look in his eyes, I'm like, what do you see? Tell me, because you know what? It's the gospel. Oh, he says it's going to be okay. He says he's never going to abandon me. He says he was with me the whole time. The one-liners God comes out with, I give him a chance to say one sentence, and he goes deep right away. He knows he's only got a few minutes. So he wants to permanently hook them into this idea that after Brad or Eden or whoever leaves, for the rest of their lives, they can meet him in this place. Look into his face, hear his voice, receive his love. And I'm telling you, I've done it long enough now that God is into it more than I am. You guys, just go for it. Go for it for yourself. Go for it with others. Go for it with the most broken person you can find, because it's way easier than with church people. I'm serious. Like I love the church. I just know that I picked up a lot of layers of stuff to get through sometimes that they haven't. I'm supposed to stop now. Let me finish with a story. My friend Dee Dee, she was our sister-in-law. She helped us plant our church. She became one of our intercessors, but behind the scenes, she was a very serious alcoholic. And she would hide booze all over her house, and she would come to prayer meeting to intercede, and sometimes she was pretty drunk. You know, as a 30-some-year-old, she'd never gone 100 days sober since she was 14. She first started drinking when she was in single digits because of pain. It's not just like law breaking that needs to be punished. It's the suffering of her soul that led her to this, right? And so she's going through this and her life unravels. Here's the short version. Her life unravels. She ends up on the streets. The amazing thing is, at one point, she was living in like a cardboard box in Surrey, teaching other crack addicts how to find a meeting place with Jesus. She could do this better drunk than I can do it sober. I mean, like, because you know what? He's always towards her. And the guy in the, on the street with her, she has good news for him. And so she would just keep crashing and crashing and crashing. And even though she could find a meeting place with God in her heart and hear his voice, that didn't heal her like that. Sometimes it does. She ends up in Life Recovery, the very home there where we're doing this stuff. And she goes to her meeting place with God one day. And she says, I'm just so sorry. I've lost my family, lost my health. I've lost everything. She had hepatitis C. I mean, it was bad. She was dying. Many times the cops called her husband, said, if you ever want to see her alive again, you should come now because we probably won't be through the night. So she's in this recovery house now. She said, I'm just sorry. I'm not even asking you for anything anymore, God. I just lose whatever you give me. I give up. You're all I have. And in that place, he picks up her needle kit. He fills the needle with heroin and he injects it into his own veins. And she says, no, you can't do that. And this grief fills her heart. And he said, every time you did that, that grief you're feeling was in my heart. And a strange thing happened. She lost her craving for drugs and alcohol permanently. She's been like 6 or 7 years clean and sober now. Even the craving went because he took her burden. There's no father punishment anywhere in this. This is just about a person getting their life back. A few weeks later, he spontaneously healed her of hep C. The grace gets crazier. She'd already been divorced now. Her and her husband, her and her boyfriend end up, they do detox at her ex's house. He ends up inviting them to live with him for a year. Her ex-husband walks her down the aisle as she's remarried. Now her and her new husband go off to Guatemala and to Africa, and they do missions, and she's getting her MA in family counseling. Hello! What? I don't even get that. Can that even be right? Shouldn't God have done this at some? I'm offended. And he's like, oh no. He keeps coming around. Could we just do that song one more? All right.